Hello, Topic Mixer family. I hope y'all are doing wonderful this evening. I decided to do a brief video on the Democratic National Convention that happened this week. I'm sure many of you saw it, and there were a lot of you that didn't also. Um, but it was unique. It was different. This is the year of COVID-19. The convention was not done in its normal settings. Um, Most people were in remote locations. There were a few people there at the place where the venue was. Um, Only Kamala Harris and Joe Biden gave their speech from the convention floor, and it was eerie in a room that was empty for the most part. There were like a few people sitting there that were basically social distance. They didn't clap, they didn't cheer, they didn't do any of those things during the speech. Um, so it was a different kind of convention this year, but this has been a different kind of year. And it kind of carried out throughout the theme of the convention. As you know, this really was about getting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris kicked off in their presidential campaign. So let's get started. So let's talk about the Democratic National Convention and some of the things that happened during this. I didn't really watch the convention itself. I did watch some of the speeches, and so I'm going to give you a critique on some of those. One such speech was by the daughter of a Trump supporter. She spoke about her father, who was a Trump supporter. He was a avid Trump supporter, in fact. Her story was poignant. It kind of tugged at your heartstrings, and it was a reason for the story, and it kind of set the theme for the entire Democratic convention. She said that her father was a Trump supporter, had voted for him in 2016, was a MAGA hat wearer, everything about him. So Trump had pushed for things getting back open, and her father decided that he was going to go to a bar. He didn't wear his mask, and he also didn't social distance. He was just in there with his friends doing his normal thing because Trump said it was going to be okay. Sure enough, he contracted COVID-19 and later passed away, which was an emotional response for this young lady. She's lost her father, a major part of her life, and losing a parent, I understand. I've been there before. And it leaves a dark place in your heart. So she basically blames Trump for it. And so she's now a supporter of Joe Biden, who she's hoping is going to be changed so we won't see any more fathers or mothers dying from that disease. And that's the way she feels about it. So, like I said, she set the theme and the tone for this convention, which was a little bit darker than usual. There was hope, but at the same time, there was like a dark feeling about the whole thing, about our country's headed in the wrong direction. That Trump has not been a good leader for this country, which, to be honest with you, he hasn't. But let's move on. Okay, one big controversy that came up, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. Like I said, I won't talk about stuff in order, was AOC. AOC gave a poignant short speech. It was about 1 minute and 49 seconds. That was all the DNC allowed her to have, which to me is a kick in the butt, which is pretty bad for progressives. She's like the front runner for progressives. She's the leading person she's the most outspoken person of progressives, and she's one of the more popular members of the Democratic Party right now, especially for young people. If you're trying to attract young people, don't push back AOC. But they gave her 1 minute and 49 seconds. In that 1 minute and 49 seconds, she gave a poignant speech about all the issues. She put them on the table, or pretty much the outline of the issues that progressives believe in, what they're fighting for now, and what changes they're hoping for in the future. And she nominated Bernie Sanders. That lit a fire in the backsides of NBC, or should I say MSNBC. They went after old AOC as if like she was doing something wrong. She did the wrong thing. Yada 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 yada. What they didn't understand by her seconding, by the way, she didn't start the nomination. She seconded. Bernie Sanders had reached the threshold for votes, so for delegates. So technically, he could have been nominated to be president of the United States because he had enough delegates to set to be president of the United States. But that wasn't what was going on. They were just following procedure. So by following procedure, she had to second his nomination. This is what she did. Again, NBC went nuts. They said she was wrong for what she was doing. She didn't back Biden. They had to apologize at 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and that's another slight, by the way. You apologize at 1 o'clock in the morning. You didn't try to apologize in prime time or on the air where other people can hear your apology. In fact, they said they continued on the next day trying to, on the sly, attack her for what she did, even though they knew it was a procedural vote. This is NBC. They've been at every convention since I can remember, so I know they know how the procedure works for the DNC, and it's shameful what they did. But this is typical par for the course for mainstream media attacking the progressives. And, I'm sure I'll get attacked for saying something about that, but that's okay. I have no problem with it. I'm going to say it. It's par for the course. They put their pundits on TV that don't believe in the progressive movement and attacking AOC and only giving her 1 minute and 49 seconds at the DNC was a low blow to me. Now, my man Bernie Sanders, he did get more time, and he did give a pretty good speech. It's very issues-oriented. He wasn't there for an emotional response because that's not Bernie. He's not an emotional guy. Excuse me. Bernie is the guy who said this himself. He's not the guy right there you expect to be an emotional guy. If you're looking for an emotional guy, don't come to Bernie Sanders. Pretty much that guy. But anyway, good thing about Bernie, he always sticks to the issues. In fact, that's what he brought up. Medicare for all, increasing minimum wage, ending student debt. Those are the issues. And he brought them up, and he was showing how he supports Joe Biden. He said, I don't always agree with Joe on these issues. We fought tooth and nail during the campaign for this, but Biden is the best choice. He's talking to all the progressives, because a lot of progressives are thinking about not voting, and maybe you've heard that, especially the ones that listen to The Hill. I have some issues with that channel. I'll have to bring that up on another video, but The Hill is a mixed bag. They have one person that's a progressive and another one that's supposedly a conservative who supported Trump, by the way, and still does. So, like I said, Bernie brought that up, but he did throw his support behind Biden in the end. The speech that came after him that night, I believe, was Michelle Obama. Let's talk about her speech. Her speech was poignant, on point. It was less political than most speeches, but it was about the politics of the moment. In the speech, she even said that she's not a person that likes politics. She doesn't like politics at all. And she understands that other people don't like politics, especially how messy and divided they are right now. And she put it on the line and said, Trump's just not a good choice to be president. It's not. He shouldn't be doing the job that he's doing right now. Totally agree with her. Totally agree with her on that. But we can talk about his job on another post as well. This is about her. Her speech was kind of like that down-home speech where your mama sit down and talk to you about something. That was one of those kind of speeches. That's what she gave. And, a lot of people, they give heaping of high praise on it, throwing high praise on it. It was a good speech. But she's also experienced, so she's good at that anyway. Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I did like Michelle Obama's speech. It was pointing to the point, and like I said, she's a gifted orator, just like her husband, Barack. I'm not going to heap praise on it. It was a good speech. Again, she's, it is where politics is. She talked about the negatives and accentuated the positives. I hate to add the heap coals on the fire, but we are in serious trouble as a country, and Trump is not the only problem with that, but he's part of the problem. So that was the theme of that speech was Trump, but the GOP and even some parts of the Democratic Party we got issues with. In order for things to change, those things have to change. But moving on, let's talk about the Republicans. This is one of those things I had an issue with. Kucinich basically gave a speech talking about how Biden would be the candidate that Republicans could like. He's still liberal, and they don't agree on everything, but he's the guy that would be able to cross the aisle and work with Republicans. So here comes Kucinich. Along that same lines was Colin Powell gave a speech as well. I believe it was one other Republican that spoke. Do I have a problem with it? To a certain degree, this is the Democratic National Convention, and you got two Republicans speaking. They crossed the aisle to speak. They're what we call the Lincoln Project Republicans. Their whole project is there's something wrong with the Trump administration. They're fighting against the Trump administration, and they're going to vote against Trump. Now, these are two guys that are promising, along with Bush, to vote for Joe Biden, the Democrat. So basically what they're saying is that it shouldn't be about party, it's about what's best for the United States. And that's the theme that they're running on. And that makes sense, but at the same time, I worry about what direction this means for the Democratic Party in the future. Where is it going? Is there room for things like Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, other things that workers' rights, things that are important to our side of the party, to the progressive wing? We will see where that's going with that. Understand you got to appeal to them to try to get a wider voting range of voters, because there are those who are sitting on the fence right now trying to decide where they're going to vote, and maybe Kucinich helped, maybe Colin Powell helped, and like I said, it's just a telltale sign of where the party's going, and I guess that's better than the extremes, because you got QAnon, which I'll have to talk about in another video also. QAnon is the extreme. I don't even know if they're conservative, but I know one thing: they support Trump. They're extreme Trump supporters. We'll talk about them again on another video. Moving on from there, other notable speeches. I'm gonna say Barack Obama. Definitely, that was like poignant. Let me give you a speech. Let me do the speech the way he would do it. It was like right there in Philadelphia with the Constitution on the back wall, right there in the room where they wrote the Constitution. He gives that speech and he turns into the camera, and it was a little emotional. He actually had a little emotion in his speech. Some people say his speeches aren't emotional, but he's an awesome orator. His speech was awesome. He was on point. He brought up some valuable points about what he did during his administration and how Joe Biden was his friend. Same thing Michelle did. Michelle talked about when she first met Joe Biden and her relationship with his kids and his family and how that was affecting him. And so Barack brought up those points too. But he also brought up how Joe was that guy in the room when everybody else had left and he was still there, which I think is a good point to bring up about Joe Biden. He was the guy that was there when the other guys walked out of the room. Also, I think this is the most aggressive I've heard Barack Obama against Trump in years out of all, Trump just goes after Obama every time. Obama's fault, everything's Obama's fault. We can talk about what is Obama's fault and what isn't later on. Um, but he basically was talking about how he's not a good president. He's not doing a good job. He hit that point. He hammered it home during his speech, and it was pretty poignant. I'm not gonna say that would have changed how I would vote, but listening to that was wow. You know what I'm saying? So Kamala Harris, let's talk about her speech. Okay, her speech didn't blow you away, but that one thing she said in that speech that stood out was the fact that she brought up family, or two things rather. She brought up family, and she says that's one thing she's learned to appreciate is family, whether it be biological, whether it be a family that you choose like her husband, or whether it be other family like her sorority sisters, people at her school, people in the country, and other folks that she mentioned. Um, that was a good point. Another one that was kind of like a hit in the face kind of thing is when she says she was talking about herself as a prosecutor and her experience as a prosecutor and what it's taught her, and that she knows a predator when she sees one, and that was aimed squarely at Trump. And I'm sure that's talking about all the different things that Trump is accused of and guilty of, from grabbing women by the pee to sexual misconduct with people like Epstein, all kinds of stuff. That's accusations. I'm not saying that he was with Epstein, but he had seen it in a couple of pictures with him and had supposedly been on planes or his pleasure island. Hey, that's all I know. It's what I'm hearing. That's rumor, hearsay, whatever. But if his name is in that black book, it's probably true. So Kamala Harris brought that up. Now, there were some trouble spots in her speech. Like when she accepted her nomination, she paused like she was listening for applause. Of course, you're in the convention hall. There's a few people sitting there. They didn't clap. They kind of sat there. The guys were sitting there with their hands clasped. The women were clasped with their legs folded. It was one of those situations, okay? So, it's like she said it, nobody clapped. She stood there for a few minutes. Then she started her speech. And like I said, there were some fillers in the speech that kind of dragged on. But she had this happiness on her face, this enthusiasm that I will talk about on Joe Biden's speech that he didn't have. But she's got that enthusiasm. She's speaking from the heart.